Everyone, we're back. I hope everyone's enjoying their lunch. Those of you who are joining us virtually, we're back on, and it is my honor and pleasure to be able to introduce our keynote speaker today, the Ambassador Ivan Roberto Sierra Medel, ambassador here for Mexico in St. Paul. Ivan Roberto Sierra Medel is the 5th consul of Mexico in St. Paul since the establishment of the consul here in Minnesota in 2005. As a career diplomat, he has worked for Mexico's Secretariat of Foreign Affairs since 1993 and has the rank of ambassador since 2017. In the Secretariat of Foreign Affairs, Ambassador Sierra worked at the Direction General for the Pacific, the Direction General for Technical and Scientific Cooperation, and the General Coordination of Advisors. From 2019 to 2021, he was the Executive Director of the Institute of Mexicans Abroad. Please take a moment and welcome Ambassador Sierra Medel.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Dr. Miguel Fiol, thank you for this wonderful invitation. And thank you to the University of Minnesota for allowing me to be here today on this never relinquished land of our brothers, the Lakota people, always proud, never defeated. Slightly over a year ago, I was in Mexico City serving as executive director of the diaspora agency, the diaspora unit in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And I got the phone call, Ambassador, we want to offer to you this position abroad. Okay, what's the position? The consulate in St. Paul. And say, taken. And the person asked me, why ambassadorial positions are also available and career ambassadors never want consulates. And I said, but this is Minnesota. And this is the land of Walter Mondale, who just passed. It was, and it is the Midwest, land of giants, Hubert Humphrey and the great Sitting Bull. So the great Tatanka was in the Midwest. I have to follow his lead. And I want to be here, and I want to share the experiences that we have, not only at the Mexican consulate in St. Paul. Of course, the experience at the consulate is very relevant, but also the broader Mexican consular strategy, having been in the career for 30 years. I have been working in several positions. And most importantly, I have seen how the community evolving needs and strengths elicit public policy response in many areas, and I want to share the experiences. I have 9 slides, but I will be very short addressing each of them. We will go back to the second slide when I finish my presentation, because it is the slide devoted to the health and mental care issues. As it happens, we put it in first place, but I would like to share a broader context of what makes this approach a cost-effective approach, because it is a demand-driven approach. So if we can, okay, I will. As you can see, this part of the presentation pretty much addresses what we are discussing, but I want to have some context. So let me tell you what is the last, what has the recent experience in Mexican consular strategy taught us. First of all, Mexico has a very large presence in the United States. My own family emigrated to Chicago more than 100 years ago. A member of my family served in every war since World War II. My father served in Korea. Next week, he's traveling to Korea in order to mark the anniversary. Cousin Robert served in Vietnam. Consul Alfonso was clever enough to serve in Guadalajara remotely and not in Vietnam. So we have draft dodgers, and then I'm very proud of them. Then many cousins served in Gulf War 1, 2, and 3, Afghanistan. So the family is broadly involved in the way of life of this country, but only my father came back to Mexico, so we grew up there. What happens is that our immigrant community keeps very close ties with the home country, very close. And they can be really the strongest that we can imagine. There is no easy experience around the world in order to match the Mexican experience in immigration. Let me just give you this example. In the last 2 years, remittances that are sent from the United States to Mexican families, and that are the most the thing that most resembles a salary, because they get to the families every month and they are spent in living expenses. They surpassed the salary mass in Mexico. So families in Mexico are getting more money from remittances than the salaries that are drawn in the official economy. So what it indicates is that when the family is separated by a border, divided by a border, the family keeps being nuclear, and the attachment is even stronger in order to support the families that are left in Mexico. In order to address the needs of the more than 10 million Mexican citizens that now live in the United States, close to 11 million, 6 million with documents, 5 million without them, 4 million without them, because DACA, they do have some kind of document. Mexico adopted a strategy stressing closeness. So our consular offices are established across the United States in order to be close to the communities. We have 14 consulates in the state of Texas alone. We have 10 consulates in the state of California alone. And we are missing Bakersfield, and we are missing Modesto, San Luis Obispo. So the waiting list is long. Then we have a number of consulates in the most difficult to reach places. When in 2005, we decided to open a consulate in Boise, Idaho. We didn't get approval for over 1 year. And I used to joke to the minister at the time that the State Department could not find Idaho in the map, so they didn't grant the authorization. Then, of course, in the year 2005, we opened in Minnesota for the second time, because in the early 80s, the Mexican consulate in Minneapolis was a very active one, but the strategy at the time was different, not strengthening closeness. So the consulate, the original consulate was closed, and the community was told, oh, please go to Chicago and you can get any service that you need, 10 hours away if you are living in Minnesota, and 20 hours away if you are in Minot, North Dakota. But please go. The strategy now is different, and it has been in 25 years, the strategy that emphasizes closeness. So we now have 51 consular offices across the United States. And there is the commitment to open a new consulate in Oklahoma and a new consulate in New Jersey as well, because the communities are growing, and they are growing rapidly. They are growing mostly organically because the second generation and third generation are big. Actually, the second and third generation now are bigger than the Mexican origin immigration. We have, as I told you, close to 11 million Mexicans living in the United States, but second and third generation are 18 million. So that is also a task. How can we make any impact in improving the standard of life? So since closeness is the approach, the most important thing that our consulates can deliver is services. We have to provide services. So we have 4 kinds of activities, 3 related directly to services, and 1 that is very important because it supports the whole strategy. So the first one is the political dialogue. Each consulate has to have a very active political dialogue, and I can give you this example. In the year 2010, in Arizona, the local legislature adopted this initiative, SB 1070, that literally attacked the immigrant population. Then, after 12 years, the same Arizona legislature adopted a law enacting the use of the Mexican consular ID as a legal means of identification in the state of Arizona. What changed in 12 years? The political dialogue. If you have the community, the grassroots organized, and they really make an impact in the public life, they produce change. So political dialogue is very important. And then our share as government is to deliver services in 3 areas. Legal services, documentation, safe documents, and improving of living standards services in partnership with local agencies in order to get a bigger impact. What kind of legal services we provide to our community? We provide services related to civil law, immigration law, family law, criminal law. Of course, we are not attorneys, at least I am not. So what we do is partnership with local organizations that want to reach the community, and so we mobilize the resources. We can pay a part of the fees, but mostly the partnership, what provides is a bigger mobilization of resources, like community-based legal clinics, for instance. Then the second area is the official documents that we provide to Mexicans. We provide passports, we provide consular IDs, and we provide the documents that are needed in Mexico, like the birth certificate, when the person was born abroad, but the parents are Mexicans, and powers of attorney that are needed in order to sell and buy property in Mexico. So we provide a number of documents, and they can make a difference. I can share with you this information. Just 15 years ago, we introduced it in the consulates a stronger way of issuing the consular IDs, matrícula consular, supported by documents, birth certificate, proof of address, and any proof of identity, photo, signature, thumbprint, and then when we started issuing this safer document to our communities, several banks told us, if people will have the safer document, I can accept the document to open a bank account. And the first one was Wells Fargo in 2004. In 6 months, Wells Fargo produced the first report how they are opening the new accounts. 300,000 new accounts in 6 months. So at the time in the banking sector of Mexico, no bank had 300,000 accounts. So that means there is a mobilization of resources once you unlock what is really not facilitating the process, and you facilitate the process. Same with the passport. This year we started issuing the chip-enabled passports in order to provide for safer documents and to prevent identity theft. That will greatly improve the life of the community, because you can be using your data knowing that it will not be stolen, and you will be using safer documents. And most importantly, the documents are demand-driven. What speaks of the closeness to the community, that the community comes to us and they get the documents at the consulate at such rates that really they speak volumes by themselves. Let me give you this example. When I arrived in St. Paul, I saw that last year was our record in the largest volume of documents issued. And then I did the math in order to see over a 5-year period how many Mexicans in the area came into contact with the consulate. And that is the benchmark. How are you impacting the community? But this is really a big surprise. 70% of all Mexicans that live in the Minnesota, South Dakota, North Dakota area, at least once came into contact with the consulate in order to get a document. 70%. So that means we are really in touch with the community. Of course, that also speaks volumes, because that is 70% of individuals. But then there are the families. And most often, that means that almost 100% of families have at least one person who have contacted the consulate. That is in order to get passports, in order to get consular IDs. But that is only the second area of our services. And then we have the community-based area of services, the partnerships. And our slides here, they speak of that area of the partnerships in education, healthcare, and very important, outreach. Because when you speak about the next generation, you have to speak about outreach, how you would reach them. So we have a number of partnerships in education. We have the program that allows people that only speak Spanish to get the GED certificate. Remote learning. We have more than 200 Plaza Comunitaria remote learning centers in the United States that are operated by community colleges, school districts, unions, trade unions, in order to give the adult population the chance to learn from the resources that are in Mexico. And that helps the families that are living in the United States get a stronger outlook in education. We also provide scholarships, but of course the scholarships have evolved over time. When we set for the first time the scholarships in 2005, our goal was helping people to learn English, helping people to get the GED, helping people to complete basic education in Spanish from Mexico. Then, after 15 years, I came back to the same office in order to work in the education, and I see that the community now is demanding different things. Now they want young people to attend community college, to attend a 4-year college. So our new scholarships stress community college and also 4-year college in partnership with institutions that match the resources. Then we have financial inclusion. This is very important because, as I told you, just one bank could open in over 6 months 300,000 new accounts. It means that the community can generate a lot of wealth management. And this is very important. Culture. We have a drawing contest for children. This is how I imagine Mexico, that has been in business for 25 years for children around the world. And it is impressive how it is elicit the artistic talents of children and the memories of a Mexico that they don't know, because they only know what the parents tell them. And the second program, cultural immersion, is a very important one that I want to share with you, because young people, they have to have a strong feeling of identity. And what really teaches us that we can make a contribution to that is that 2 years ago, and also 3 years ago, and also last year, we organized a group of young people born in the United States, but with a connection with Mexico, parent or grandparent, to have cultural immersion, language immersion, learn history, tradition, but most importantly, to volunteer. So they provided this service to the community in terms of education or environmental, betterment, or sports, or promotion of local business and export of local products. And that was a big success for young people. Even established institutions like University of California, they were telling me that the group, once they all have airplane tickets, once everybody has confirmed participation, will arrive in smaller numbers because somebody will go home straight from the airport back home. Okay, from my first group of 147 people, I have my list, my attendance list, of 147 young people that came to Mexico. So 100% commitment. And what I see is that unleashed the will, the commitment to volunteer, not only in Mexico, but back home in the United States. And that always helped a healthier community organized over these efforts. We have these very important programs for gender inclusion. And we have a tradition of generating electronic publications in order to get across the world. And we have Casa de Mexico, that is our main publication. So let me use my last 3 minutes to go back to this information, the healthcare information, because this is of particular importance. And over the past 2 years, it has been so. In the year 2001, we started a partnership with the University of California in order to organize the California-Mexico Health Week. And basically, it was California piggybacking on Mexican efforts, because we already had in Mexico the vaccination week. So they wanted to match the dates. Then it evolved into the Mexico-US Binational Health Week, that every year in October, encompasses all 50 states and is the only nationwide effort, and it is promoted by the Mexican consulates with local partnerships. Because, as you know, it is very hard to deliver the same message across the nation because it is very expensive. So we go to the grassroots and to the partnerships. Then we decided to invest in healthcare for the community with the Ventanilla de Salud healthcare window. That means that a local agency, like for instance, the Ramsey County Office for Health Services, they come to the consulate, and the consulate is seen by the community as a safe space. So they trust the consulate and they trust the services that they get in the consulate. What does it mean in reality? Okay, last year we started the program in order to provide vaccination at the consulate. And of course, the several public agencies, they provide vaccinations in other places. Okay, in a typical day, when they come to the consulate, they apply 100 jabs. They go next day to a different place, they have 2 vaccinations or 3. So the rate, because we already built the trust. And when that accumulates, last week, our friend Osvaldo here got the recognition because the office that provides the vaccination in Ramsey County has delivered 13,000 vaccines. 13,000 vaccines. Not many clinics in the Twin Cities have that. So I really salute you, Osvaldo. How you can build two-way trust with the community in order for people to assume that if you go to the consulate and you get your vaccine, you are doing great. So with this, I finish because maybe there are some questions or refutals. So I am open to any of them. And really, I thank you for your time and your patience. Thank you so much. Dr. Miguel?
Ambassador, thank you so much for coming and being with us. Thank you, Ambassador, for coming and being with us. It's a total pleasure to meet you, and I'm happy to hear you're from Guadalajara, which I plan to visit very soon. So thank you so much. My question in this morning session, we brought up the fact that the apprehension in the border, we're dealing a lot with border issues, had gone up to the highest in the last, since year 2000. It was 1.6 million people that were apprehended crossing the border. And was wondering in what, in your mind, what is the reason for that big increase? Is it COVID related, or what other international or things that are out of your control? But in your opinion, what is the reason for this increase in border crossings? We appreciate your opinion about that, sir.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate this question. I have been a university lecturer part-time for 30 years. And the last book, the more recent book I published, I addressed the very specific issue of border apprehension before the Trump administration took office. And in that book that was published by University of Baja California in the year 2019, the data that I found was amazing. You can see that at the time, just before the Trump administration took office, on average, one border patrol agent made one apprehension every 2 months. That was the average, because the payroll was inflated, so they had many people, but they have very few apprehension. So not even one apprehension over 1 month. Then, of course, we see this spike twice. First in the year 2019, and now what we are seeing. And one of the factors that researchers like Jeffrey, in Princeton, he will kill me, okay, and Rafael Fernandez de Castro in UC San Diego have seen is family reunification. Since many people crossed the border when it became very dangerous during the Trump administration, and now they want the family to go and to come here and to reunify the families. You are seeing that one person is here and 3 people are drawn close in order to keep the family together. When an average person made the crossing in a very difficult conditions, they assumed that it would be possible to reunify the family. So that is a very important aspect. And of course, the second aspect that is very important is a regional one. You most recently have Mexicans, but for 3 years you didn't have much Mexicans at the border, but you have our brothers from El Salvador, from Honduras. And today, I was invited to the opening of the Consulate General of El Salvador in the Twin Cities. So it means that they also have the strategy of closeness that Mexico has had in order to be with the community. So we see 2 factors that are very important, that are very relevant. Jeffrey Passel. Any other question? Can you give her a microphone?
Hi, thank you so much. My name is Anna Acosta. I'm a professor at Mitchell Hamlin and an immigration lawyer. I also wanted to kind of add on to some of the points that you made about border crossings. So number one, and maybe you could speak to this as if you're able to, if you're not, that's okay. I know that there was a policy at the southern border during the Trump administration to limit the number of people who were permitted to request asylum per day. It was called metering. I know it was in place in San Diego and several other points along the border in 2018 and 2019. And then also with the increase in apprehensions, oftentimes it's not, it's the same person trying to come in multiple times who's been expelled in Title 42. So I always think it's like really important that we specify that apprehensions does not equal people. So it probably, like the actual number of people attempting to cross is likely much lower, but if you have any comments or responses to that, particularly the metering, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
You are totally right, and that is what Dr. Rafael Fernandez de Castro in UC San Diego stressed out, that apprehension, the number of apprehension reflects the number of actual people, but is not a perfect synonym, because now when they make an apprehension and then get the person back to Mexico, the Border Patrol doesn't get the fingerprints of the person, and oftentimes not even the name. So the same person can cross again the border, and it will count as 2 apprehensions if the person is unlucky enough to get caught for the second time, but is the same person. That didn't happen for a long time because the Border Patrol was getting the fingertips. In many aspects, it is back to the future situation. 40 years ago, my beloved auntie Lupe was deported 3 times from California to Mexico, and every time she got back in Southern California, Ventura County, the very next day after she was deported, because at the time it was possible. Now we are seeing much of the same situation, that the person can make a number of crossings because there is no record of the apprehension because the Border Patrol didn't have the time to take the fingerprints. So you are totally right.
Thank you, Ambassador Ivan, for your time, and thank you for joining us. We have to move on to our next panel. I want everyone to please join me in giving the ambassador a round of applause. Thank you very, very much. Thank you very much.